Good afternoon and welcome to this month's Advice Media webinar. We are very pleased to have Jay Shore from Shore Solutions here with us today. As we get started today, let me just set a few items here and kind of address a couple of things. First and foremost, our thoughts and prayers certainly go out to those in Houston. I know that we have one of our employees down there. I've also got family and friends. I'm sure many of you do as well. Invite you to do what you can. Jay and I were talking earlier that physically and getting down there isn't for us, but we certainly are able to financially help and do whatever we can, and everyone's different, but invite you to certainly look at that. Again, our thoughts and prayers go out to them. It sometimes in moments like this, it seems that what we discuss seems very minuscule and unimportant compared to that, but we continue to live and we continue to move forward, but our thoughts are with all those people and all those families down there and those that have lost loved ones, and we wish them all the best. We've got a great presentation today. I'm going to introduce Jay in just a minute, but throughout this presentation, we certainly welcome questions. That's something that we do. We try to make this a very educational format. So with that in mind, if you do have questions, I'm going to be moderating those, and I'll present those at the end of the meeting. And so on your dashboard for the GoToMeeting, you'll see an area for questions. Please go ahead and submit those, and I will keep track of those so that I can present those to Jay at the end. Our presentation today is 1 + 1 = 3, and this idea that really collaboration is better than competition. And this is a very, very powerful concept, and one that will make a lot more sense as Jay goes through this today, and I'm sure you're going to have a lot of takeaways from this. Introducing Jay today, I've had Jay on before because Jay is a very, very knowledgeable individual. He also has a ton of experience working within practices and also consulting practices, and having worked with him on many forums and panels, and presented with him and alongside him, I have the utmost respect for him and the message that he shares. Jay Shore is the founder and managing partner of Shore Solutions, which was formerly known as the Best Medical Business Solutions. They're a Florida-based medical practice consulting firm assisting practices with their operational, administrative, and financial health. Jay served as the Vice President of Operations and Practice Administrator for a leading board-certified dermatologist and cosmetic surgeon in South Florida until her passing in 2012, and held partnerships in 2 leading South Florida plastic surgery centers in the past. He's a Temple University graduate and has served as a professional motivational speaker for nearly a dozen industry organizations, including the Academy of Cosmetic Surgery, the Aesthetic Show, the Aesthetic Academy, the Medical Entrepreneur Symposium, the American Academy of Facial and Reconstructive Plastic Surgery, the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, the American Academy of Cosmetic Surgery, Vegas Cosmetic Surgery, and Global Aesthetics, and more. He's a certified medical business manager from Florida Atlantic University and a certified aesthetic consultant, levels 1 through 10, from the Aesthetic Practice Association. Jay previously received the Honorable Mention Award for OR Excellence in Medical Financial Management, and regularly serves as an author for national industry publications, including Modern Aesthetics, Med-Aesthetics, Surgical Aesthetics, Physician's Office Resource, Medical Office Today, Plastic Surgery Practice, Medical Economics, Outpatient Surgery, the Journal of Medical Practice Management, Surge Magazine, ASOCP Connect, and more. And lastly, Jay served as an advisory board member for the National Hockey League's Florida Panthers from 2011 to 2012. So as you can tell, Jay has been there and done that. If you're like, hey, Jay, have you ever seen this in practice? The answer will be yes. And he's got a ton of great information. But today, again, he's going to talk about 1 + 1 = 3. So Jay, welcome. And again, thank you for always joining us and sharing your wisdom with our audience, and look forward to your message today.
Well, thank you, Chad. It is absolutely my pleasure to be a part of this session today and to catapult onto what you said. I know we had this discussion earlier, but I'd be remiss if I also didn't share my hopes and faith and prayers to the people in Houston and throughout Texas and any of the states that this terrible hurricane is going to hit. As a Floridian, South Floridian myself, We are no stranger to hurricanes, but this is much different. And I'm just in such personal awe when I look at the news and I see the devastation. And as I said, I'm a little bit too old to physically help, but I had this discussion today. And please, everybody out there, if you're not physically able to help, it's either a monetary donation. We went to the supermarket and we bought food and diapers and things like that and dropped it off to the local collection site because these people are so less fortunate than we are. And, I hope that everything comes out to be okay. It's going to be something that's going to be for years to come. So as we start the presentation, I'm going to give a lot of factual ideas, and then there's going to be a lot of my personal comments from a lot of the personal experiences that I've shared along the way, personally in our own practice and through literally the hundreds of practices that my business partner, Mara Shore, and my daughter also come across every day. I know that Advice Media and Shore Solutions share quite a few of the same identical clients. We see things that happen all the time. And, every one of us has competitors, but the whole idea is never to knock your competitor. Try to promote what it is that you do best. It looks better. It may not feel better, but it should. And really, when you collaborate with people versus compete with them, sometimes everybody wins. As I start most of my presentations, I explain that medicine, even the aesthetic side of medicine that we deal with, truly is a science. In the standard practical form of medicine, it's a way to heal the sick and injured, but in our specific industry, it is a way to keep our patients looking young and beautiful. We are cosmetic, med spa, dermatologists, plastic surgeons, non-core physicians entering the market either in medi spas or in aesthetic medicine. Medicine is, and I believe will be one of the most respected professions today simply because of the amount of education that one has to go through in order to reach the statuses that you all receive. But front and foremost, beyond safety of our patient and protection of our practitioners' licenses, never lose sight of the fact that medicine truly is a business. And that's why we're all here today. It is the business of operational, administrative, and financial health of your specific business. Now, we all offer three types of services: good, cheap, and fast, but you can only pick two. And our patients, good and cheap, isn't going to be fast. Fast and good won't be cheap, and cheap and fast most certainly will not be good. Now, I didn't make this up. I've heard this for many, many years from professors of mine, from colleagues that I wholeheartedly respect, and it's something that will never, ever go away. But let's define today what collaboration and competition really is, because that is the purpose of this session. Now, I do know that 1 + 1 does not equal 3, but the purpose of 1 + 1 equals 3 means that two establishments, two people can most certainly do better than individual adding it up together. And that's why 1 + 1, I've used 1 + 1 is greater than 2, but 1 + 1 equals 3 seem to fit better. So when we collaborate, it really is a cooperative arrangement in which two or more parties, whether it's personal or professional or businesses, and you may or may not have had any previous relationship, and you work jointly towards a common goal. Because sometimes when you get involved with a business for the first time without a previous relationship, it's kind of like dating. You have to understand one another's needs towards a common goal to see whether or not you want to continue with that. When you compete, you're working to strive, gain, or win something. By defeating And I don't like to defeat any of my competitors. I just like to establish my own corporate superiority. That's why I never say anything negative about my competitor. And the reason for that is because it's really up to you to prove your worth and why you are worth the value, the financial investment that you offer to your client or vendors or other businesses. So, once again, it really is the work to strive, gain, or win something. I'd rather say by establishing your own personal professional superiority over others who are trying to do the same thing that you are. So, how do you collaborate? Well, that's a very interesting point. That is precisely why I use the definition of collaboration and competition. Well, for today's purposes, look at the two logos on the screen. How do you collaborate? You've got two professional organizations out there that reach kind of the same audience. Advice Media does not deal exclusively in the aesthetic cosmetic business, but Sure Solutions does. We are a medical practice consulting firm that only deals with the aesthetic cosmetic spa plastic surgery industry. Advice Media has other offerings to a different base of clients, but for the sake of collaboration, we work together with some of the identical clients. We perform different services. Here is where we are not competitors. We are collaborators. And therefore, we share same clients. We are guests, panelists on their webinar series. They are many times on faculties where I'm a moderator or I may be a program director for a conference. And I ask and choose that we have Chad and Darren from Advice Media because they are the experts in this industry for the message that I want to relay. So, who are your competitors and your competitions? For your patients, well, there are many other providers who do exactly what you do, and that's aesthetic, cosmetic, and plastic surgery. There's others in the beauty and the self-care industry. Think about blowout bars, manicurists, pedicurists, med spas, surgery centers. They are all different types of industries out there today that were never there when we first started this. I hear all the time about a specific type of a medical profession that wants to get into the aesthetic industry. And I have clients and prospective clients that call all the time. They're OBGYNs, their family practice. And basically, they're trying to get out of the insurance related business or have an adjunct to the aesthetic and cosmetic and want to either go into the surgical practice or the med spa practice. And then there are the hair places and the mani pedicures that want to hire a medical director. And in certain states, you have to be very careful because there's laws that outlaw certain types of industries from getting involved in that unless there's walls and there's different types of barriers and how you collect your money. And then gymnasiums or gyms that are for the workout people, there's great collaboration that we can do. We can go to these places because the people that want to work out that may be aesthetic, there's certainly different types of gyms that do that. The Holiday Health Fitness Spa is most certainly different than a Gold's Gym, where they may just want to work on the fitness of their bodies, where other people are just going for a workout, but really do care about the medical portion and the aesthetic portion. And then the competitors are really anybody else that consumes your patient's money. Remember, I said that medicine is a business. So what other types of medical practices and med spas are there? Well, we have to form relationships with them. And that can be family practice, internal medicine, other types of medical practices that do not perform the services that you do. However, they may have the patient base that does. And always remember, if the people that are interested in aesthetics, cosmetics aren't coming to you, they most certainly may be or already are going to somebody else. So what we really want to do is try and get a bigger share of the market. So how do we do that? Well, look for gaps in services that businesses or other medical offices don't provide. And that can be simple as dermatologists. Now, I remember when I first started working in this industry, I came into a practice that was a dermatology cosmetic surgical practice. They started out in functional medical dermatology, offering no aesthetic cosmetic services, and then slowly but surely they started to do some add on. I came into it at a 30% cosmetic, 70% functional derm. I saw the handwriting on the wall many years ahead as every year I saw the declining of reimbursement from third party payers. Now, I don't want this to be a political battle, so I'm going to say whether it's George Washington or Abraham Lincoln care, Clinton care, Obama, or Trump care, it doesn't matter. It's not a matter of politics, it's government. And I don't know whether it will ever get better. It has been on the decline for many different presidents' terms on the decline reimbursement of third party payers. So, what we have to figure is where's the gap? How can we be an adjunct to other medical practices? Many plastic surgeons didn't want to do Botox and fillers many, many years ago. I recall not only 10 years ago, they were surgeons, and they still are very well respected, and that's how they wanted to be known. And they didn't have the staffing to perform these services, even though they were well qualified to do so themselves. But they felt that their niche truly was, and the time factor that they had truly was best served on the surgical realm. So what did they do? They saw the handwriting on the wall and they started handing and hiring mid-level providers and physicians extenders. That could be nurse practitioners or physician's assistants. Now, by no means mean to insult a mid-level provider or physician's extender by calling them that, because I have heard that a lot of nurse practitioners or physician's assistants don't like that term. I didn't make it up. It's just how we refer to them, no differently than some people call, the surgical technologist a scrub or a scrub tech. I try to be very politically correct now because some people don't like these terms. So a lot of the dermatologists and plastic surgeons didn't even offer lasers. And then the onset of the laser market hit, and they started buying lower level lasers and then lasers that had multifunctions. And today, there are still practices that don't offer that. So if you do, it wouldn't be a bad idea, whether it's yourself or somebody that's in your marketing department in your practice, that goes out and tries to reach out and collaborate with people that are in the same kind of medical industry that we are, but don't offer the services. Now, I'm going to share a personal story that we had. In our practice, we used to have a doctor that did a lot of cosmetic services like laser hair removal. Yet they also did sclerotherapy. I didn't have a sclerotherapist in our office, so I would send those patients to this physician who would do the sclerotherapy. When the patient was there, sometimes they would say, "While I'm here, can you do my laser hair removal?" At which point the physician said, "No. The only way I'll do it is with express written permission from the doctor where you came from, because you well know when you make a referral, they're only going to be able to take that patient once before you no longer refer to them." So even though they could be a competitor, it's best to have the collaboration with that doctor versus having competition with that doctor, because although they may take that one patient, they're never going to have the opportunity to do it again. So it could be reverse. Don't you do it to somebody who refers a patient to you and not return the favor. Always make a deal not to step on one another's toes and steal the patient. Like I said, it truly is only going to happen once. Many of you may know Paula Young, Paula DeMarco Young. She is a nurse in Pennsylvania, and she has a weekly podcast. Now, we collaborate with them a lot. They're a very well-known practice. They did a lot of tattoo removal. They had Dr. Tataway out in the Eastern Pennsylvania area. She is a faculty member on several of our faculties with Chad and myself and Darren. And she is a wonderful person to collaborate with. So there's a weekly podcast. We listen to that. We take a lot of her ideas, everything that you need to know about aesthetic procedures. That's one of the things about collaboration. Always make sure of one thing: stay away from negative people, because they have a problem for every solution instead of a solution to every problem. You don't want to collaborate with people like this. They may even be your competitor. No matter what it is, they have a negative answer. And I'm almost certain you have some of these same identical people as your patients. When you suggest and or recommend a procedure, they're going to tell you exactly why they don't want to do it. Then your next question is, then why are you coming here if you don't want to take my professional advice? Next, others in the beauty and fitness and self-care industry. I said this before: form relationships, maybe even have a dual marketing piece that shares certain specific services that you don't do and they don't do. And when it goes out to either print, social media, email, Instagram, Facebook, postcards, no matter what it is, it could have both of your examples on there, and they may be able to potentially do business with both of you. Another example. Here is a perfect example. This is a client of ours in Encino, California. Dr. Alex Eshagian is a wonderful strategist when it comes to social media. He's great on Instagram. He's great on different ways to promote his services. He has hundreds, literally hundreds of videos that are able to produce great examples of some of the things that he wants to do. I said this before: collaborate events that you have. All right. It could be with manicurists, the 5-minute makeover, blowouts, attendees, maybe even when other organizations have an event at their facility to promote the services that they do. Maybe get with them and see whether or not you can be a guest speaker at their beauty night. And it wouldn't hurt, when you have an event like that, that you can also invite them. I'll share another personal experience. I have a client in the Tampa area, and when he had an event, he invited a beautician. And the beautician said, every time that you do a facelift with this specific doctor, we will do a haircut and a color for free. Well, there have been so many clients that had facelifts, surgically, non-surgically, and he gave them free services. Well, after that, these clients just loved his beauty parlor that they continued to stay with him. So he may have given a few $100 gift for every one of those clients and patients, but he certainly benefited by as well. So you might want to collaborate with some of these people, because it's always going to be money in the bank. Anything else that consumes your patient's money, I don't want to be all about money, but I said before, it's truly a business. Have community sponsorships, silent auction donations, and build relationships. It may not be a bad idea. This is just a personal opinion, to promote something That's that you are donating X amount of dollars of the next X amount of your procedures to the Red Cross or hashtag, Houston Power or whatever it is, go Houston. We did that in our practice when we had some severe hurricanes. For every dollar that came in on specific procedures or revenue, we donated money to help the hurricane victims. Number one, it's good promotion, but number two, it felt really good knowing that we were able to help. And people like knowing that they want to visit a place that is charitable and gives truly from the heart from their money that they're spending with you. Use national groups to bounce your ideas back and forth with LinkedIn, which is a professional business group, private social media groups, national and local mentors. I'm not sure whether or not you have these people already in your practice that you can refer to. I always like to explain to people that although it's about the money, people say, well, I don't know that I can afford to do that. I can't afford to hire somebody. My answer is you may not be able to afford not to. And here's my answer to that as well. If you think that it's expensive to hire a professional, wait until you hire an amateur. And then you'll see what it cost you by what you spend with minimized and lack of great results. In your own office, it's always great to have people that can do for you. Richard Branson, one of the I call one of the most powerful people that with Virgin, he said train people well enough so that they can leave, but treat them well enough so they really don't want to. Another genius and hero says it doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. Hire people so they can tell you what to do. It's nothing better than great results and great ideas come from people far smarter than us and some people that are less intelligent than we are, but maybe more intelligent in another field. Because the people that are one of the most important to collaborate with are people even in not only in the industry but in your own office that are physically in the trenches and see the day-to-day operational issues that come up that you may or may not see. I always say this about the least recognized person in your office that you really need to collaborate with all the time, and that is your receptionist. But I don't call them a receptionist. I refer to them as your director of first impressions, because this is the person that makes sure that when that phone rings for a prospective patient, they're the ones that are there to credential you and hopefully bring that patient in for you to treat. Because without them, you may never see that person. So you need to collaborate with them. Ask their professional opinion on what are you hearing? Why are the patients not booking? And this is the way when you collaborate, even internally, you're able to justify some of the things that you may want to do and haven't done because you're not sure whether or not it's the right thing to do. One reason that people resist change is because they focus on what they have to give up and not what they have to gain. So here once again, Richard Branson says, if someone offers you an amazing opportunity and you're not sure if you can do it, say yes. Then learn how to do it later. Don't ever give up what you may not be doing, because a lot of times it really refers and comes back to the money and the people behind you that are going to be able to perform that function. I have another adage, the difference between a CFO and a CEO in your business, that you need to have that collaboration. Sometimes internally, we compete with one another, and that is a very unhealthy process. I've seen staff compete with one another so that they can show the boss that they're better. I've always believed in working in tandem with one another so that we all get the praise and that we all feel, and most importantly, the decision makers feel it wasn't one person, it was the group. There is a reason that the late George Steinbrenner, who was the former owner of the New York Yankees, never put the name on the pinstripe uniform. If you notice, all these professional teams have names of the players on the uniforms. And George Steinbrenner said, the reason I don't put your name on the back of your uniform is because you play for the name on the front of the uniform, not for the name on the back. And I've taken that with me my entire professional career. And it truly is. I work for the client. They don't work for me. Our goal is to make them more successful. Your employee and your staff goals are to work in tandem. The difference between the CFO and the CEO is the CFO asks the CEO, what happens if we invest in developing our people and they leave? The CEO says, well, what happens if we don't invest in them and they stay? Well, truly, that makes a lot of sense. You don't want people in your office that you have never made an investment in time and investment in money. Time is money. Always make fear and failure your best friend because when you do, you embrace it. I've never had friends that I've held close to my heart that I didn't invest in. I may not have feared them. I've never failed at anything in my entire life, and neither should you. I may not have succeeded, and there's plenty of things I've attempted to do that I may not have succeeded to the level of success that I've wanted. But I've never failed because failure to me is when you give up. And when you collaborate with people, neither party wants to give up. But when you compete with somebody, their goal is to make you give up. Because if it's up to them, many people are very selfish and they're going to want to put you out of business. And you know that what I'm saying is true. Ask your competitor. They may not necessarily really have your best interest at heart. So always make the guy to your left your best friend. In the poker game, the guy to your left is the person or gal that's going to bet after you. Stay close to them because you're going to make a move and they're going to overpower you. In order to grow your business, you personally need to grow first. You have to understand your faults. You have to understand who you can collaborate with, who you can trust, who is going to help you through the hard times, both professionally and personally. And that is how you grow. Now, there are many businesses out there that have not practiced great customer service, and some are still here and some are going away. I'm going to give you some examples. Netflix did not kill Blockbuster. Ridiculous late fees did. Uber has not killed the taxi business. Limited taxi access and fare controls did. Great customer service. And Apple didn't kill the music industry. Being forced to buy that whole album really did when you can stream or purchase one individual record. And Amazon didn't kill other retailers. Bad customer service and experience did. Airbnb isn't killing the hotel industry. Limited availability and pricing is. And technology by itself is not the real disruptor. Not being customer centric is the biggest threat to any business. And customer focus and customer century is done by collaborating with one another. In many other lectures that I give, I always say if you don't think for 1 second that your patient senses disruption in your office by Debbie and Dan Downer, then you're mistaken. They'll sense disruption in your office all the time because you can feel it. You can see the attitudes. When your directors of first impressions pick up the phone, can you hear that smile? If you can't, it's time to get new people. Is this you? Physician burnout happens all the time in our business because they have bureaucratic tasks associated with medicine. Although I love EMR, this is probably one of the biggest things that have really hurt doctors. It's wonderful. I love EMR. However, it's so difficult to get started that many of my clients have told me they'd rather take the penalty from Medicare than have the disruption in their business. Loss of control over their work, governmental regulations, all the paperwork, the declining of insurance, whether it's reimbursement or their bills that they've submitted and they get declined. And most importantly, what I've heard most, as we have clients today that are really wanting to have exit strategies, it's because they don't have a work-life balance anymore. They can't spend time with their families. They can't spend time with their children, taking them away because they're married to their business. I can share with you from personal experience. My wife was the physician surgeon who passed away, and that's why we sold the practice after she passed. I share with you, ladies and gentlemen, from personal experience, don't suffer from a lack of work-life balance. Don't feel that I'll do it tomorrow because I need to make the money today. Passing away with a big bank book really doesn't matter when you haven't had your work-life balance and the experience to have fun for all the hard work you've put into it. And then increasing complexity of medical care has really hurt somebody. And if you really think that you don't suffer from this, you need to get your head out of the sand because everybody does. One of the things that I'm going to have in closing is that no matter how big your house is, no matter how recent your car is, or no matter how big your bank account is, our graves are always going to be the same size. So please, I urge each and every one of you to stay humble. I want to share one final slide with you about transformation of change over the period of 63 years. This is me at 5 or 3. This is me at 21. And this is me at 63. There's only one commonality. I've always worn a tie. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the conclusion of my presentation. I like to try to make them brief and to the point. The whole idea, it is truly better to collaborate than compete. And with that, I'll open it up to any and all questions that you may have that I can answer for you.
Jay, thank you very much. A great message as always, and it's, you know, I always learn so much from you, and I've taken quite a few notes here, and you know, very, very powerful. It's interesting, you know, as you mentioned some of these things, I see them not only in our own business, but I see them with others who are trying to be successful. My daughter, who's 15 years old, has started a business. She's kind of learning from me and being a young entrepreneur, and started a direct selling business for clothing for a company called Shop Stevie, and has her own thing going. Well, she's had her first couple of events at people's homes, and then met another person who is huge in direct sales in a different industry for makeup, and they've now created a partnership and a little piece there, and they're working together. It's not a competitive. It's not like, oh goodness, I don't want to involve her because people might want to buy her clothes as opposed to buying my makeup. These are women who are interested in both things, and it works out better for both. And so it's your principles are absolutely true. A few questions that have come in. One is there a benefit to joining a BNI or a similar, you know, meetup group like that?
There's always a benefit. There's a selfish benefit, and that is what can I get from them? But there's also what can you give back? Even though I started off that medicine is a business, a lot of times what you give back to society or what you can share with other people so that they can better themselves always works so that in the future, they may not be able to refer to you now, but one point in time, somebody is going to come across somebody who knows somebody whispering down the lane that they can end up referring back and forth. You know, I've been members of chambers of commerces, and it's always been people trying to hawk from me not what they're going to give me, but what they can get from me. Travel agencies and printers and all this. And you know what? Sometimes I've actually found a better vendor for me. So it was great to collaborate with them. I've even been able to find competitors of mine that had a patient that moved away from their specific zip code. And because I was no longer a threat to them, they referred to me. So it's always great to join some type of any type of network.
Thank you. Another question is, with these partnerships, do you need a formal agreement?
Depends on what it is you are doing. If it's going to be a monetary collaboration, the answer is yes. Because the formal agreement, number one, well, there's three things here. In the medical business, if you're going to share patients and specific information, you have to ensure that you never violate HIPAA. That's probably the most important thing. The second thing is what are your deliverables and what are you promising in that collaborative relationship? And the reason is you want to clearly define, and Mara and I write a lot of contracts, and every affiliate agreement that we have a mutual non-disclosure agreement and confidentiality agreement. We also have an agreement which defines the terms and conditions of which we're going to be collaborating with you. We have the purpose of the non-disclosure is truly for HIPAA and that we don't share other people's pearls, just like we share clients with Advice Media, and we have that agreement. It's not necessarily always be monetary. However, whatever we discuss between us about a client never leaves our office. And then you want to be careful because when you refer back and forth to one another, you don't want to be caught in what they call negligent referral. You always can be ruled as an innocent party in this. However, you want to make sure that you're covered for some of the things because you can't always prevent a lawsuit being, forced upon you.
Very true. So I'm with you. Sometimes it can be informal, and other times it does make more sense to have that. But I think you bring up a very valid point that when it comes to patient privacy, that's an absolutely critical element.
I'm from the old school, and I was raised with a handshake, but a handshake doesn't work anymore.
Unfortunately, it doesn't. You're absolutely right. Last question is, for someone who is already busy, but they know they want to do this, or they've got some people in mind, how do they get started? Do they trust someone in their office? Do they teach them? Do they just say it needs to be a priority? How do they get started?
The hardest thing in life is trust. Once again, I was raised that I trust somebody until you do something to me that leaves me reason not to trust you. It really doesn't work much that way. But before I get involved with anybody that I have an agreement with, I vet them and get to know them first. And that goes in addition. I've known Chad and Darren, the Advice Media team, for many years. When I first got into this business, you've been in it longer than I. And when I first got into this business, we lectured together. We've broken bread together. We've had a lot of conversations personally and professionally, and it's a matter of trust. So it is always difficult because when you have staff, You can have non-compete with your staff members. Sometimes they're very difficult to uphold, but you have to be able, for your own professional development, trust people that are going to get you to the next level. And if you don't trust people, then you're always going to be a Grinch. And you're going to be an island unto yourself unless you want to do all the work. And when you do all the work and people see your successes, they're going to know how you did it, and they're going to steal your idea anyway. So isn't it better to have them on board with you? And look, it's a whole different generation today. And I don't want to get into baby boomer versus Gen X and Zennial and millennial, because we'll always agree to disagree. But my business partner and daughter is a Zennial, as she tells me. And we definitely don't agree on a lot of ways to do it. But yet I believe in collaborating with her because she understands the people of their generation. And I have learned that it is better to collaborate and agree for mutual success. So getting started in it, you have to trust people. You have to go out and elevate your resources, find out who is it that you can benefit mutually and benefit you as well, and give it a try. If not, hire third-party consultants that will be able to help you at least get it started. Count on your website vendor. Count on your accountant or your attorney. Those people who know your business that you trust and that aren't going to steal that business from you. People who are on your side want you to succeed. I want Advice Media to succeed. They're one of our affiliate partners in this industry. We work together a lot throughout the year. I have no financial interest in them, nor do they with us, but we collaborate with one another and share ideas in the industry so that we can all benefit with our client base.
Yeah, very well said. I would just add to that, start with your vision in mind. What are you trying to accomplish with sort of the thinking about that end result? Make a list of those you want to reach out to, and then set some realistic goals, and identify, okay, who can I reach? When can I reach them by? Set a time limit on that and make it happen. Don't try to say, here's 20 people, let's hit them all this month. Start with baby steps if you feel like it's just too much, and but make it systematic and make it a plan to start reaching out. And as you start developing those relationships, you will see other opportunities come about. I promise you that. I've seen it numerous times. So thank you.
There are three
Jay,
steps. There are
yes,
three
go
steps
ahead,
in
please.
the process, Chad. First, what is it you want to accomplish? Secondly, when is it that you want to accomplish it by? And lastly, who is responsible for accomplishing it? And when you put that down, when we develop business plans for our clients, whether they're first starting out of residency or fellowships, or even in the course, or the business plan to exit with succession planning, we create a business plan: operational, financial, marketing, administrative. And those are the three steps, because you've got to decide what it is you want to accomplish, when you want to accomplish it by, and most importantly, what resources are you going to use to accomplish that? Review it again, and review it again.
So true. It seems so basic, but those are such powerful principles. So thank you. Jay, thank you again for your time today. We thank our audience for joining us for another informational webinar today. We wish you all a happy and safe Labor Day weekend. Enjoy the time with your friends and family. And again, we'll catch up with you next month. Jay, thanks again. Best wishes, everyone.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure, and my personal and all of our blessings to those people affected by this personal devastation in Houston.
Absolutely. God bless.
Thank you.